Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about making a two-ply. Just a standard, basic, run-of-the-mill two-ply. And it's one of the first things that I teach beginners when we're teaching beginner spinning. And it's one of the things that a lot of hand spinners do. When they don't want just plain singles yarn, they often will do two-ply. And I mean, it depends on the kind of yarn that you want in the end, but knowing how to do a two-ply is pretty important because kind of everything is based off of that. I mean, it's just general two-plying. So we're going to go over that today, but I also wanted to kind of let you know there's a lot of people doing odd kind of things with their plying, and they'll come into class and sometimes it works for them and sometimes it doesn't. And I wanted to say, I'm going to show you a way that works, and it's just standard, it's just basic. If what you're doing is working for you and it's completely different, then keep doing it if you're happy with it. What this is, it doesn't matter how you get to the yarn that you want. It's okay. If you're doing something kind of odd and it seems weird, compared to what other people are doing, or what I'm doing seems weird compared to what you're doing. If you're making yarn that you like, just keep doing it. If you're having problems making the yarn that you want, or you're not really comfortable, or something's just not working, then give something else a shot. So we're just going to go over some basics. And it starts with the Lazy Kate. And Lazy Kate is basically, something like this. This is just an Ashford Lazy Kate, and it's just got two pegs, and the bobbins go on it. The yarn goes through the little peg here to keep it down because the bobbins will fly up otherwise. And that's it. It doesn't need to be anything really extravagant or crazy. This is just a very simple one. Some of them come that can hold, 3 bobbins or 4 bobbins or more. And it all works. You don't even need to have a Lazy Kate. You can make your own Lazy Kate. I mean, you do need to have a Lazy Kate, but you can make your own. You don't need to buy it. One of the most simple ones is just a dollar store basket like this, an old knitting needle, or a dowel. You can use a shoe box, a cardboard Amazon box, anything like that. And basically, your needle goes in one side, your bobbin goes in it. You see how the needle came out the other side and in through another hole. That's it. All you really need is so that the bobbin is free turning. And it turns, and that's it. The yarn will come off, and that's pretty handy. This basket's kind of neat. I can fit, for this size bobbin, if I moved it up a little bit, I could fit 3 bobbins on here. So it's pretty handy. And I mean, I keep these around because I weigh out fiber and stuff in them, keep little projects in them, but I have used them for this. The other nice thing about this is I have certain spindles that'll fit into it. So eventually I'll do a video on plying off of spindles, and this one fits some of the spindles that I have. So I've used this basket, or ones like this, because I have several of them, just for plying. So I like them. They work. Even if you've got all the tools in the world, sometimes it's nice to have something like that on hand. So you notice that I've talked about 2 Lazy Kates that are kind of freestanding. There's a lot of wheels that have them that are attached into the wheel. And, I post a blog post down below, and I'll post a photo kind of giving you an idea of what I mean by a Lazy Kate on board of the wheel. And when they're on board the wheel, and if it works for you, that's fine. I'm giving you other information here. If it's not working for you, and a lot of people have a hard time with it, because when it's on the wheel and you're facing the wheel, you are pulling in and then it goes back in. So it's this pulling and moving motion that just doesn't work for a lot of people, as opposed to if it's behind you and it's heading into the wheel, it's just this smooth movement of heading into the wheel. So I understand not everybody has the room, or if you're traveling, you might not be able to bring a Lazy Kate with you. And if that's the case and you're plying, then that's the case. If it works for you, then keep doing it. If it doesn't work for you, or you want to try something maybe a little bit different, something that just sort of helps it flow a little easier, then get a Lazy Kate, you know, like the plastic other one, or like this, and set it behind you and to the side. And that way it'll just flow past you into the wheel. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to switch, and we're going to focus on the wheel and how the plying works. And if I can get this back here. There. So I've already started a little bit, and we can focus on the wheel now. So I wanted to point out, because I've started a little bit, you can kind of see this is really, you know, if I'm yanking it out of the wheel. You see, I've pulled it out of the wheel. And again, I'll have more photos down below in the blog post. This is not how I want my yarn to look. Now, when you wash a yarn and do all of the finishing on it, it sets some of that stuff out. And so when you're setting your yarn and you're setting this and it settles out some of the twist, these yarns are going to end up looking almost like they're just, you know, side by side. They're running together, they're not twisted together, and that's really not what we want. So let's see, let's add an excess amount of twist to this. If I were to do the ply back test, which is just letting it ply back on itself, let's see, right there. Oh my goodness. There. That's too twisty. It is really twisting back on itself, and that's just way too twisty. I let some of that excess energy go out. This might not even be enough. Let's see. Because remember, some of it's going to settle out, so you want to have a little bit of twist. So a little bit. See how that's just sort of a little bit, it lightly twists back on herself? That's going to give me the right amount of twist that I want so that it looks like a nice twist when I finally do the wash. I know, seems a little counterintuitive, but that's how it is. So I've given you that, how to test up front, and so now let's go into just the very basics of how to spin, okay? And you're going to want to keep testing every so often as you're doing the plying. Now, plying is just basically, say your threads were spun in Z twist, you're going to put them together side by side, get them back onto the bobbin, applying an S twist. So Z is one way, S is the other way. And I'll put a note down below in the blog too, so you can reference all of that. So I'm plying in the correct direction, and I'm not really having to do a whole lot other than, you know, collect fuzzies that have been sitting with this yarn. But I do use 2 hands sometimes. I mean, if I'm being really lazy, I'm not using 2 hands. So let's be honest. But I've been doing this a while. But it helps to use 2 hands. One to help control the twist, one to control the strings. Can you see that I have my hands are kind of separating out the strings? I have this finger and this finger, keeping them apart. But that's it. Now, one of the things that helps people, and it helps people who are experienced spinners and people that are beginning spinners, once you figure out the right amount of twist that works for the yarn that you've made, and that's hard to tell you because it depends on the thickness of the yarn that you've made, and it depends on the amount of twist that you've put into the singles. So I can't tell you exactly what it should be, but I told you how to test for it. So let's say I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 treadles is too much. So Let's put that in and do 1, 2, 3, 4 treadles. And that's about right. So what I know now is when I'm doing this length that I've set up for myself as comfortable for my arm length, and I do 4 treadles, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's hard to tell when my hands are like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, because I got a double treadle here. So when I've done 4 treadles, that's when I can put my yarn in. So counting my treadles kind of makes it more rhythmic, and I know that I've done 4 treadles. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the right amount of twist that I need. I can, you know, listen to a music that has the right beat for it or whatever. But I know that 1, 2, 3, 4 treadles is what I want, and it goes in. 1, 2, 3, 4 treadles in. So that's what I keep doing. So you could do that. That's a good way to kind of measure how much you're doing. And if it's a yarn that you've made a whole bunch of times and you're feeling confident about your rhythm and how it's going, then you probably don't need to keep checking it. But if you're just starting out or you're making a special yarn and you're intent on needing it to be pretty exact and pretty even throughout, then you're going to want to keep checking every so often. So like every so often when you need to change, every time you need to change your flyer hook, you can check or set it up sooner. If you've got a woolly winder on there, figure out how, you know, a time frame for you to go and check on it and kind of take a little bit out, let it go back on itself. It's a lazy loop. That's exactly what I set up for myself as what I wanted for this yarn as correct. Now, correct for me may not be correct for you. I like having the lazy loop because that gives me a nice strong twist when I'm done finishing the yarn and everything. If I wanted the yarns to be a little bit lazier, then I could choose a different way for it to look here. You just need to remember that some of the twist is going to settle out. And there's nothing saying I can't add more twist later and then reset it again. But if I only want to spin it once, then I need to keep track of what I'm doing, maybe even take a sample and wash it for myself just to kind of give myself an idea. And just a sample would be, you know, 5, 6 feet, 2 yards, 2 meters, something like that. Something that kind of gives you an idea of what you've got going on, and you can kind of pull it out, wash it. Is that exactly what I want? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Even when it isn't, you can be able to tell from that, okay, I just need a little bit more twist or I need a little less twist. So you don't have to have a balanced yarn every time. You don't have to have an energized yarn, and you don't have to have a lightly twisted yarn. You can have the yarn that you want. And so that's what I'm advocating here, is that you make the yarn that you want, you do it in the way that works for you, and if your way isn't working, then give something else a try. So that's it for today. We're going to do more plying another time because I have a whole list of plying videos for us to go through. But have a good day, guys. Bye-bye. Happy spinning.